Joining us now to review some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Arise News analyst Emmanuel Efeni. Great Malabite, good morning.
Good morning, Ruben. Good morning, Rufai.
Morning, sir.
Good morning, Victoria Tundu, MQ Abiola.
Morning.
Yes, that's mushroom, Ruben. Mushroom color.
Yeah. Mr. Feni, did we all get the memo? We all had pink in our ties this morning.
Efeni, if you are not careful, you will have to buy me a mushroom soup.
Well, I had to ask Ruben. I did not jump into conclusion that is brown. I asked and I was told by the expert.
I promise you I'm not making it up.
Professor of colors.
Now, let's start today's review with This Day, Nigeria's newspaper of records. The lead story: projects, appointments, guided by equity, inclusiveness, says Buhari, vows to prosecute criminals terrorizing Nigeria. Yes, against the backdrop of criticisms that his administration has strived to foist northern hegemony on the nation through favoring the zone in key political appointments. The president is insisting that all decisions about policies, projects, and appointments by his administrations have been guided by equity and inclusiveness. I'm sure there are many who will not agree with the president. And as you can see in the Daily Sun newspaper, Buhari, Afenifere, others clash over appointments. My actions, policies, fair, inclusive, says President. It is not true. Groups, Middle Belt Forum. Yes, you only need to look at the service chiefs and the heads of paramilitary organizations, customs, immigrations, correctional services, and conclusions will be drawn. But the fact that the president is trying to defend himself, perhaps going forward, I'm sure the president will do the needful and reflect the spirits and letters of the Constitution, where the federal character is enshrined, and it should not be done in only certain areas, but in all areas, and it should be seen to be done. Now, if we look at other stories in other newspapers, tough times await illegal, that's the Nation newspaper, tough times await illegal arms bearers, Buhari vows. APCU 10,000 appointments slots post-2023. Now, the Business Day newspaper, business stories. In Nigeria, ghost of Kingsway, Leventis stalks second-generation retailers. Nigeria's second generation of former retailers may soon find themselves traveling the ill-fated path of first-generation retailers from Leventis to Kingsway, who took off in the face of weak consumer purchasing power and supply chain disruptions. Yes, between 1932 and 1948, these companies were established: UTC, Leventis, Kingsway, and they were the toasts of shoppers back in the day. Tundu, Ruben, I know you remember going into Kingsway shop, Leventis.
I certainly do.
Was, in fact, a tourist attraction in itself. Young ones, even if it means just going there to buy one roll of peppermint, you just stroll in and you have a good day. But again, weak consumer purchasing power, disruption, put them out of business. And now the second generation of shops in that mode are also experiencing the same, according to this report. Perhaps they will have to learn from some indigenous retailers who are finding a way around these tough times. Now, the business news: court orders federal government to pay Bayelsa 951 million. Yes, a Nigerian court. Now, according to the report, Justice Ian Ekwo of the Federal High Court, Abuja, gave the order yesterday in a judgment in the suit marked FHC/ABJs/CS 175/2021. It was filed in the name of the Attorney General of Bayelsa State. Yes, Bayelsa had in the suit urged the court to compel the Attorney General of the Federation, listed as the sole defendant, to pay 5% of the $50 billion recovered as additional revenue that accrued to the federal government between 2003 and 2007. And of course, in delivering that judgment, Justice Ekwo found the Attorney General of the Federation failed to enter his defense in the suit and held that the plaintiff's suit was unchallenged. And of course, Tundu, I know you know the legal principle where a person issues a letter of demand to another person upon outstanding facts. The person for whom the demand notice was issued must take steps to react to the same. Where the person to whom this demand notice is issued takes no step, he is deemed to have admitted the claim, thereby giving the other person the option of enforcing the claims by the available procedure for enforcement of undisputed claim. Now, Bayelsa government, Bayelsa State is richer by that amount, and I hope they will take steps to enforce that judgment. Now, other stories quickly. The Guardian newspaper, Nigeria faces import crisis as reserves hit 13-month low. Reserves fall behind South Africa, Egypt, Morocco, and Libya. Contract crude swap, robbing economy of rising crude gains. Low confidence, worsening investment outlook. If I just go to the foreign newspapers quickly, the Guardian newspaper of UK, from the Guardian Nigeria to the Guardian of UK, Tory MPs accused of adding fuel to culture war in education report. Yes, according to this report by the Education Committee, the conservative-dominated Education Committee, it states that white working-class pupils have been let down by decades of neglect in the English education system. According to this report, the report warns that schools could be breaking the law by promoting divisive terminology such as white privilege. The Education Committee examined why poor white children underperform compared to other disadvantaged groups and rejected the government's view that poverty is solely to be blamed for the performance of these children. Of course, the chairman of that committee, Robert Halfon, stated, white working-class people have been let down by the system that condemns them to falling behind. Now, the New York Times is reporting that college athletes cannot be denied pay. Justices rule. Yes, the Supreme Court ruled overwhelming majority, 9-0, that the National Collegiate Athletic Association, NCAA, could not bar relatively modest payment to student athletes, a judgment that underscored the challenges to collegiate sports system. Of course, that payment must be restricted to payments and benefits that are related to education. And because the colleges, they generate a lot of money from school sports, yet they don't want to pay the athletes. They don't want the athletes who help them to do this to benefit. But the Supreme Court has ruled in the US. Tundu, Rufai, Dr. Abati.
I just want to talk about the Supreme Court because you know you and I had some arguments about that, Mr. Feni, in the run-up to the last election. I'm actually very impressed with the Supreme Court. Recently, there have been a spate of unanimous decisions, which means they're not voting along party lines, and they should, show a good example. Then I think the legislature in America should, take a leaf from out of their book, and that's all I'll say about that.
All right. Okay, Dr. Abati.
Okay, just to draw attention quickly to 3 stories. The first is a story on page 8 of This Day Today, where Senator Ajibola Bashiru, the chairman of the Senate Committee on Media and Public Affairs, is quoted as saying that the attempt by the National Assembly to review, amend the National Broadcasting Act and also the Press Council Act do not amount to an attempt to gag the press. I think that Senator Bashiru needs some little education in terms of what the National Assembly is trying to do. In real terms, what the National Assembly is trying to do is to gag the press, to regulate the press, to censor the press, to prescribe the scope of the freedom of expression in the country, and also to redefine Section 22 and Section 39 of the 1999 Constitution. The report talks about what he said about media aids and all of that. No, those laws are not about media aids acting as spokespersons for people in government. Those laws are about the right of the media to play an oversight role within, the polity.
As the fourth estate of the rain.
Secondly, the other story is Daily Trust. Front page, 774,000 jobs. Federal government directs banks to pay participants.
Yes, okay. Daily Trust, put it up there. We have it, yeah.
Yeah, that was a story. That was, a program that was launched with a pomp and pageantry. And we saw Minister of State for Labor and Employment, Festus Keyamo, pulling wheelbarrows and wielding machetes and cutlasses and hoes to encourage people to be engaged. And under that scheme, the participants, what they call the Extended Special Public Works Program, were to collect 20,000 every month. That was launched in January.
For 3 months.
For 3 months. But it is sad that in June, people who participated in that program are still saying nobody paid them anything, and that the banks have refused to pay them. Finally, the third story that I think should be of interest is about the United Arab Emirates, which said, I think yesterday we discussed it on this program, that Nigerians can now travel to Dubai.
They've now made a U-turn.
Now there's been a U-turn in less than 24 hours. Now what is going on? Is there a battle of wits between Nigeria and the UAE authorities? And can the relevant agencies please provide an explanation? Because when many Nigerians heard that they could now travel to the UAE, they were excited. So what exactly happened? There's been so much silence on the Nigerian side. We would like to know what exactly is the truth.
All right. Great insight, Dr. Abati. But I just want to harp on that story. I think it was on the top page of Business Day that was talking about second-generation retailers having problems. Okay, I understand we'll go for a quick commercial break. I'll come back and I'll make that point. So welcome back. We still have Rise News analyst Emmanuel Feni, and we're still talking about stories, in the papers. So like I was saying, I wanted to harp on that, Leventis, Kingsway, the story on Business Day front page, Leventis, Kingsway, and the likes. And I'll make a very interesting analogy. So there's a certain guy called Lord Sugar. He's quite rich, billionaire in Britain. He started a company in the 60s called Amstrad. All they did was to make television sets and hi-fis. But one of his biggest break came from, funny enough, Nigeria. And this is a direct effect on when the economy is good, you can sustain retailers. So a certain money called the Udoji money was paid in the 70s, the arrears of workers. And when that Udoji money was paid, Kingsway Store placed a lot of orders for Amstrad hi-fis and television sets, because there was spending power in the hands of Nigerians and they could afford to buy television. And a lot of workers that have not, bought anything for themselves, once the Udoji money was paid, then they could put it in retail stores. This man, Lord Sugar, tells the story in his book, And he says that he made a personal profit from those transactions worth over £70,000 just by sending orders of television sets and the like to Kingsway stores, and a lot of Nigerian workers could afford to buy it because they had the dodgy money that had been paid as arrears. So what government should do is to help people, make the economy buoyant in such a way that people can afford things and they can go to these stores to buy equipment. So there's a knock-on effect. I mean, you can just see the link I've been able to prove from the payment of Udoji allowance to Nigerian workers, and them going to the Leventi store to buy things and keeping the Leventi store in business. But since then, the big question is, has there been another Udoji for Nigerian workers?
Well, you don't have to wait for Udoji award. It is Economics 101.
Yes.
To improve the purchasing power of the citizenry with a view to boosting the economy. That's exactly what Joe Biden did.
Yes.
Put more money into the hands of the people. In Ireland, it was also done. They gave the people more allowances after the lockdown to ensure that people continue to shop and boost the economy. It is Economics 101. But
you don't need to go too far.
Yes.
What has happened with the retail stores is precisely what has happened with the Nigerian economy generally. Once upon a time in this country, school teachers who were at a point, are very distinguished citizens in this country.
They are still distinguished citizens.
Well, yes, let me conclude my sentence. You see where I'm going. They used to buy newspapers. Families, average civil servant families, used to buy like 5-6 newspapers every morning. There were many households where, newspapers were part of it. How many families can still buy 4-5 newspapers today to read? In those days, there was Kingsway stores, there was Leventis. Around the Dugbe in Ibadan, you had Leventis, you had Kingsway. As you said, you could just go in just to even do sightseeing without even buying anything.
And enjoy the AC.
Ring Road in Benin. Yeah. They had Leventis stores, they had Kingsway stores, at different corners. But today, because of the reduction in purchasing power, how many Nigerians can purchase anything, any basic thing? And when you see an economy where people cannot purchase, where people are managing, where the food ratio is 101, or for some families 100 or 001, then you know that economy is in big trouble. You and I went to university where they used to serve us chicken.
Yes.
On Sundays.
Ruben, we were buying newspapers.
Yes.
Remember how we used to pose with Newswatch magazine?
Even as students. It's an indication of what has gone wrong with this country. In those days, we used to read Mise en Bon, pesetas, buy newspapers, buy novels as students.
Ruben, I bought all editions of James Bond from Leventi stores.
I hope that the day will come when we will have the kind of leadership that will return Nigeria to those glorious days when Nigerians had very strong purchasing power. Look, in this same country, for the benefit of the younger generation that may not know, people used to go to London on Friday and return to work Monday morning because the Naira was so strong. The same Naira now that is playing yo-yo up and down. Every day, what we read in the papers is that the Naira has gone up, the Naira has decelerated in all the business papers. It's a very sad thing what has happened to this country.
Ruben, before we put all the blame on one particular leader, let's ask all the political parties angling to take over from President Buhari, what are their plans to restore this country to the good old days we are just nostalgic about? All the political parties, what are their programs to change the situation now? I think that's the question we should be asking going forward, so that we don't have a situation where another leader will just come and without any blueprint or roadmap, and we'll still be in the same situation.
Well, it's one thing for potential political candidates to express a program. It's another thing to get them to actually adhere to that program. So asking them is only half the battle, sorry, I have to say.
Tundu, you went there, you just destroyed the table.
You mean some leaders will not follow their political party program?
You know they don't.
Do some follow their manifesto?
You know they don't.
If some had followed their manifesto, maybe we would not be talking about restructuring today.
Okay.
Anyway.
Well, finally, Finney, before you go,
yes,
this story on the front page of The Sun, which says, Pope to work with Nigeria to end insecurity. I find that very interesting.
Yes.
And the question to ask is, how many troops does the Pope have?
Well, if a certain Sheikh Gumi is going across in the bush saying that with words from him and negotiation that he can bring the bandits to come out of the forest, maybe the message of the Pope will also do some magic.
Okay. As the church leader,
yes,
you've given me the appropriate answer.
Well, Ruben, if we just, I don't know whether we still have some time out there. Perhaps we just look at what is on the front page of the News Direct newspaper. APC may face challenges after Buhari's exit in 2023. And Lawan, the Senate President, Dr. Lawan, is the one making that statement. And if you also juxtapose it with the report of Leadership newspaper, search for PMB successor begins as APC stakeholders list criteria. So the ruling party doing some introspection there. What will happen post-Muhammadu Buhari era and the kind of leader that they should put forward before Nigerians, because we shouldn't just assume that it is the party that will decide the next president. That is the duty of Nigerians, the Nigerian electorate to do.
Right, Mr. Finney, real quickly, I know we have to run now because our guest is ready. I just want to celebrate the entrepreneurial spirit of every Nigerian out there, despite the difficult situation. Nigeria is now said to be the startup capital of Africa, Lagos. And second in that list is Ibadan. So out of Lagos and Ibadan, you are having a lot of people starting up businesses in tech. We've been able to beat Nairobi, Kenya to that. And that speaks volume of the can-do spirit of an average Nigerian young person out there, you know, that tries to do despite
the rough diamonds all over.
The rough diamonds all over, you know. And let's not also forget the fact that there are 90 million SMEs in Africa. 45 million come from this great country called Nigeria. So I celebrate every entrepreneur.
So it's not bad news all the way.
The caveat to that is that in a recent report by the Presidential Committee on Ease of Doing Business, the ease of doing business is higher in the northern part of the country, according to their latest report, than in Lagos or your state. Well, I don't know who can explain that. Maybe the economists will be able to do so. Thank you very much, Emmanuel Efeni. Good to have you every morning. Great Malabar.